You're not losing fat or building muscle because you're guessing your nutrition. And today I'm gonna show you actually how to calculate your macros the right way. Something that I always like to start out with is that whenever I had lost 100 pounds, my entire objective and goal was to eat less and move more during that entire time frame. And because of that, I pretty much starved myself and I wasted a lot of time just spinning my wheels, not seeing progress, honestly just kind of slamming my head across the door, and I probably could have saved myself a ton of time if I would have properly known what a macronutrient is and how to calculate my own macros. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to do that so that way you're not like me and spinning your wheels and wasting precious time that you're never going to get back. First things first, what is a macro or a macronutrient? Oftentimes you're going to hear people say, oh, I'm just tracking my macros. What they mean by that is they're just tracking their macronutrients. And their macronutrients consist of proteins, carbs, and fats. That is what make up macros. Obviously, it's important to note as well, there's micronutrients. These are the vitamins and minerals that come from macros. But today's video, we're just gonna solely focus on macronutrients. I always like to give people this basic information first, just that way they have a basic understanding of macros and how they work in the body and what their purpose is. So whenever it comes to protein, the two main things that I personally like to focus on is that protein tells your body to do two things: rebuild muscle tissue and burn body fat. Also helps out with satiation levels. I know I said two, but those are the main things that I really do focus on. Carbohydrates, they're fuel. They're like adding gas to the car and allows us to drive the car. Fats, they also serve as an energy source as well, but they also help out with brain health, heart health, hormonal health, just overall making sure that the body is functioning correctly and properly the way that it should be. Now, how many calories are in each of these, right? Per 1 gram of protein, it is 4 calories. Per 1 gram of carbohydrate, it is 4 calories. Per 1 gram of fat, it is 9 calories. Important to note that is double the amount of these two. But once you add up all the total amount of grams that you're having per protein, carbs, and fats, that is how you get your total amount of calories per day. Moving on to the second part. How do we properly calculate our macros so that way we can actually track them and be successful at whatever it is our goal is? So whenever it comes to calculating your macros, it's an easy 5-step process that I always take people down. So the first thing that we're going to do is find your calorie needs in the sense of your total daily, it's called your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure, essentially how many calories that you need to be at maintenance. Not necessarily looking to lose or gain weight, just more or less just maintaining the current physique that we have now. The next thing we're going to do is set your calorie goal. So are we trying to lose weight? Are we trying to gain muscle? And based upon, the answer to that question, we're going to either add or decrease calories. Next thing we're going to do is calculate protein, how much protein that you need obviously throughout the day, which is very, very important. Calculate the fats, and then we're going to fill in the rest with carbohydrates, which in my opinion is the most exciting part because who really, like I was saying with step one, we're going to find your total daily calorie needs. So whenever we're doing this, we're taking your body weight and multiplying it by 14 or 16, actually 14, 15, or 16. Where these 14 through 16 come from, the numbers is 14, let's say you live a very sedentary lifestyle, you work at a desk job, you really don't work out, you're not as active. Well, you're going to multiply your body weight times that. Let's say you actually are very active. Maybe you work outside, you work with your hands, you're always moving, you work out multiple times per week already. Well, then you're going to set it for 16. But let's say you're someone that's moderately active, which is actually going to be part of the example that we use today. You work out 3 or 4 times per week, you definitely get some steps in, you're not super sedentary, you're not, you'd maybe work an office job, but you still make sure to get some steps in. But for this example, like I said, we're going to go with the 15. So we're going to take a body weight, which the examples is 180, multiply that by 15, and we're going to get 2,700 calories. So this is how we're going to get the total amount of calories that we need per day, not to lose weight or not to gain weight. Now the next step is setting either our calorie deficit or how much we want to eat in a surplus to gain muscle, or like I said, be in a deficit to lose fat. Whenever it comes to setting your calorie goal, obviously if it's dependent upon deficit or surplus, these are kind of the ranges that you want to go by. If you're going to be in a deficit, your goal is to lose fat, to lose weight. You want to slash this by either 300 to 500 calories. If our goal is to gain weight, well, we either want to add 200 or 400 calories, like I said, to be in a surplus. I will say, I personally like to lean on the side of the number that isn't so high. So for this example, we're going to do 2,700 minus 300 to give us 2,400 calories. But even if our goal is to gain weight, I would still only add in 200 calories instead of 400. before, just so that way we're not kind of going, a little bit too far into the deep end and kind of adding in a little bit too much more than we need to in the beginning, or taking away as well. It's kind of easier, in my opinion, to make changes slowly in small increments than it is to make these big drastic changes, because once you start to make these big drastic changes, well, then you kind of have no other option but to keep making more and more big drastic changes to see the scale move or go up, and that's just not something that I want to do. So personally, I like to stay within these smaller numbers. And like I said, for this example, we're going to take 2,700 minus 300, which is going to give us a total amount of calories for 2,400 to be in our deficit. Now, the next step is to figure out how much protein are we having per day to make sure that we're telling our body to rebuild muscle tissue and burn body fat. So now that we're on our next step, calculating our protein, whenever it comes to calculating protein, I think a lot of people have heard you want to do 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of lean body mass. Now, most people don't know how to figure out their lean body mass. To be honest with you, I don't even know how to figure out my lean body mass without using some type of InBody scan or DEXA scan or some type of machine that's going to give you that information. I do believe most retail supplement stores do carry something like an InBody scan, which I highly recommend. That's going to give you a lot of information. But to keep it simple, what we're going to do is we're going to do 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of body weight. The example that I was giving is the individual is 180 pounds. So 180 times 1 is obviously going to get us 180 grams of protein. In total amount of calories, that's 720 calories. The way you get that is 180 times 4. Just to make sure that everyone understands that math. But that is the easiest and simplest way to get the most, or to get your protein that you need per day. I will say, let's say you're a heavier set individual with more body fat on you, I would probably lean more towards having this 0.8 be the multiplier instead of the 1, just so that way you're not overdoing with the protein and kind of eating an excess amount of calories that are coming from protein. Eating more protein than necessary won't hurt you at all, but I definitely don't want to overload you with protein because that obviously wouldn't be the most ideal thing. So now the next step after this is to calculate the total amount of fats that we're needing per day as well. Setting up fats, in my opinion, this is super simple, and the most efficient way to do it is you're going to take 20 to 30% of your total calories coming from fats. So you're going to take that 2,400 calories that we're having and multiply it by either 0.20 or 0.30. For this example, what we're going to do is we're going to take that 2,400 calories, multiply that by 0.25, and once we get that number back, it comes out to 600 calories. So you're gonna get that number back and be like, okay, what do I do with this? Like I said in the beginning of the video, 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. So we're gonna take that 600 calories divided by 9, and that's gonna leave us with 67 grams of fat per day. Now, let's move on to the next step, which is the most exciting step, in my opinion, is figuring out how many carbohydrates are we having per day. Now, whenever it comes to figuring out your carbohydrates, what you're gonna do is you're gonna do some pretty basic math. So we know protein-wise, we're having 720 calories coming from protein. Fat-wise, we're having 600 calories. You add up both of those numbers, you get 1,320 total calories out of the 2,400. Obviously, you take that 2,400 minus 1,320, you come out with 1,080 calories left for carbohydrates. Just how I mentioned in the beginning of the video, per 1 gram of carb, there's 4 calories. So now we're going to take this and divide that number by 4, and that's going to leave us with 270 grams of carbohydrates, which in my opinion, definitely is a fair amount, especially if you're someone that's entering into a fat loss phase. And also, like how I mentioned before, I like going with a number that allows you to slowly ease into a deficit, where if we would have taken a bigger number heading into a deficit, we would have been eating a little bit less. And if you're someone that's new to fat loss, I think it's just best to ease your way into it. So that is a big reason why I had selected that number, because 270 grams of carbs, to be real with you, that's a pretty fair amount. And if anything, gives you a lot of room to keep moving forward. But that is how we successfully figure out how to calculate our macros. Our protein's coming out to 180 grams of protein, our fat comes out to 67, our carbs come out to 270 grams, equaling a total amount of calories of 2,400, which is a fair amount. But hopefully you watching this video got a better understanding of your macros and how to calculate them, so that way you can either lose the weight that it is that you've been wanting to lose, or gaining the muscle it is that you've been wanting to gain. Regardless of it, I hope you took away something from this video to better serve you.